Hi, my name is Rich Harrington, and welcome to another edition of the Photoshop for Video podcast, where each week we take a look at using Adobe Photoshop for video and motion graphics. Today, we're going to take another look at using 3D objects. If you missed last week's podcast, be sure to visit our blog at photoshopforvideo.com and check it out. This week, I'd like to show you a little bit more with the controls and the shading options, as well as using blend modes to create layered designs. Let's jump in. Now, when we have a document here, it's pretty simple to add to it. If you want to add a 3D layer, just choose Layer, 3D Layers, New Layer from 3D File. You'll notice that there's lots of options. We can use 3D Studio Max files, Alias Wavefront, Collada, Google Earth, as well as import in if you're working with the Strata plugin, which is an option, and U3D. The list of file formats and options will just continue to expand as Photoshop continues to mature. Let's go back up a level, and what we're doing here is we've gone into the Extras folder of Photoshop CS3 to look at the models. And the model I'm going to use here is that of a beetle. So I'll select the object file, which is an Alias Wavefront file, and click Open. Now, it brings the model in, and it's very flexible here. In order to change it, we need to double-click on the cube icon to access the 3D transform commands here. And we can go ahead and rotate this object how we'd like to see it placed. Remember, you can do pretty free rotation here. Just click and drag around. And what we're going to do is get sort of a 3/4 angle here. And let's reposition this down to the bottom corner. There we go. And we need to make that a little bit smaller. So we can go ahead and take advantage of that. We can scale the object using the Z space here. And if I click and drag, notice how it just moves along the Z axis further away. Now, that works pretty well. And I've got the object dropped where I want it. But I'd like to do some subtle changes to it. And I want to take advantage of the different color modes available. So with the light settings here, we could play with different options. For example, I could use a blue light, which would work well since we have this large blue field back here. Additionally, we could take advantage of some of the different render modes. So let's zoom in for a moment so we can see this better. And take advantage of our different rendering options. Now, I sometimes find that using wireframe or shaded modes can be interesting. If you're trying to create a technical look, this can be fun. Now, the different shaded options will give you different looks. Here's a regular vertices look, and shaded simply adds color. A shaded wireframe is also a nice look if you're trying to go for a technical model approach. I'm going to use a line illustration style here to create a simpler look. So this is a little bit more like a hand-drawn image. And what we'll do is sample the color of the blue. So let's just go ahead here. And we'll actually just pick a blue that's reasonably close to our background. And there we go. And click OK. Or we could go ahead with the yellow if we want. There's lots of options. It's pretty simple. Next, we're going to go ahead and put another option or instance of this bug into the background. So if I just simply right-click, let's apply that transformation there. Right-click and duplicate the layer, we can get a second copy. We'll call it Beetle 2. Let's move that a little bit more into the background area here, and this time we'll take advantage of one of the other looks. I'm going to go ahead and render this as a wireframe. So let's go ahead and take advantage of that solid wireframe, or maybe the transparent wireframe. That actually looks pretty good. We'll now go ahead and scale that up along the Z-axis. By clicking and dragging, we can move it forward. And what I want to take advantage of are some additional options here. So let's play with this a little bit. We'll go with the shaded wireframe. That looks great. And let's go ahead and spin this around. There we go. And we're just trying to get sort of an overhead view of the bug. And we're going to ghost that into the background. That's working well. I like the position. Let's just free spin that using our tool here to go ahead and do a little bit of rolling. There we go. That looks good, so let's apply it. We'll drop that back behind the text and the bar. There we go. It's behind the yellow bar. Now it's behind the white bar. And let's just change it. Remember, to access the blend mode, pick the Move tool and then use Shift+, and you could step through. That's looking pretty good there. It's nice and ghosted into the background, sort of like a burned wireframe image. And I like how that looks. Overall, a very cohesive design. Let's go ahead and take that full screen for a second and take a quick look at it. And there you have it, an effective design using the 3D model. Now, these 3D models are very diverse, and be sure to explore the many options available to you. Some people are big fans of the website TurboSquid, where you could find affordable 3D models that you could purchase for a low cost, as well as Google's 3D Warehouse, where there's lots of objects available. Using these 3D designs gives you essentially customizable clip art, so you don't have to spend money on photography or things that you really can't customize. Because it's a 3D object, you could change the texture maps and what's on the surface, as well as position it how you need it for your design. For Photoshop for Video, my name is Rich Harrington. I invite you to check out our resource blog at photoshopforvideo.com, and of course, subscribe to the free weekly podcast.